Hi guys! Today's video is going to be about how I render my art. This was a super highly requested topic, so I thought it would be a good idea to make a video about it. And it was also inspired by Smiley and Natsumi-san, so make sure to check them out. They're really great artists too. And let's get right into it. So to begin with, I have a liner of a drawing I did. And I first select a skin color and I gently brush it over all the parts of the skin. And then I take a eraser tool and I erase like all the outlines around it. I like to choose like a very not saturated skin color because I'm going to be building on top of it with like shadows and stuff. So I don't want it to be like too overpowering to start off with. After I get the skin color to a color that I like, I make a clipping mask on top of the skin layer, so all my shading is going to be on a different layer than the actual skin color, so I can always change it whenever I want to. So when I'm choosing colors for the skin, I like to keep them relatively warm for the shading and cool for the base colors, if that makes sense. So the colors that I choose really depend on the skin tone of the drawing that I'm doing. For this one, it's going to be more pale, but for the other ones where I use darker skin tones, I use warmer values. I feel like this chart really helps me when I'm choosing the colors. Also, when you're choosing the colors for the inner parts of the eye, don't choose a pure white because it makes it look kind of funky. I like to take my base skin color and move it to the left as much as I can, all the way to the gray side, so it will be more of a light gray than a white, and it looks so good. So after that, I like to choose a darker beige color and then brush it over like parts where the shadow might be. Like in this drawing, for example, there's not like a definite light source, so I kind of just do it like over her eyes and in her bangs and hair and like stuff like that. So when it comes to applying the shadows, I take my brush and kind of like block out like a triangular shape of where the shadow would be, and then I take the smudge tool and blend it out. Also, another thing I like to do, you'll see me do in a couple minutes in this drawing, is I like to choose a warmer shade of the shadow color that I'm using, and I like to like define the edge of the shadow even after I blend it out. I think it makes it look really cool and kind of has like a soft effect. So yeah. I also really like to add little patterns in my eyes sometimes because I think it's really cute. And another tip that I have is if you want your highlights to like pop up, outline them in black and use a pure white. It looks really good. That's what I did for this drawing and I thought it looked really cool. I also adjust the opacity a bit on both the layers depending on if I want it more red or more dark, and yeah. So for the shadows that are a little bit more defined, I like to choose like a reddish color and then kind of blend it out like further to like build on top of the shadows. You obviously don't have to do this, but if your drawing is more of like a cool drawing and you have like more colors like blue and yellow and stuff like that, then I wouldn't suggest choosing a red tone. I would suggest choosing like a light blue and then blending it out. But for this drawing, I wanted it to be more warm, so that's what I did. So for the eyes, I don't really have like a specific way I color my eyes. I kind of just play around sometimes, kind of base it off of like reference pictures and stuff like that. But my basic rule is to do darker colors on top and then base color in the middle and then lighter colors on the bottom, and followed by highlights. I also really like to add little patterns in my eyes sometimes because I think it's really cute. And another tip that I have is if you want your highlights to like pop up, outline them in black and use a pure white. It looks really good. That's what I did for this drawing and I thought it looked really cool. By the way, I just want to make a little disclaimer before we keep going. I'm like a beginner artist, so I don't really, like, this is just the way that I render my art. Like, you don't have to render it like this. This is not like the rendering tutorial. I won't even call this rendering actually, because rendering is when you draw over your line art. Like usually people who render don't even do line art. So this is more of a coloring tutorial. But yeah, like don't take everything I say. Like you can use some of the tips, you don't have to use all of it, and yeah. So this is another thing that I really like about that line art step that we did earlier, is like to see all these artists have like little red tips in the corner of the eyes. Like I'll put up a little picture so you can see what I mean. So I always wondered how they did this, and I figured out like if you do the line art step, you can just like erase like the black line art layer part of it, and it'll give it like a nice red glow at the tips of the eyes. Honestly, I didn't really like the composition of this piece. I feel like something was off about it. Like if you could like tell me what's off, like if you can see it, please type it in the comments below, because something about this drawing was just a little bit weird. I wasn't sure if the eyes were not proportional, because whenever I flipped the canvas, it still looked the same, but I didn't like it that much. Which is sad, because I really liked how the coloring turned out in this drawing, so I'm kind of disappointed. I didn't like, I should have seen what was wrong with the line art before I started coloring, because I feel like I really did good on the coloring, just not like the overall composition. So, onto the hair, my favorite part. Just kidding, it's my least favorite part. But for this drawing, I chose like a light brown color for the very base color of the hair. And I kind of did the same thing with the skin, where I kind of outlined the entire hair in the base color and then made a clipping mask to do all the shading. Now, I know on Clip Studio Paint, there's like a perfect color drop tool or something like that, where it perfectly drops it into the thing, so you don't have to like erase all the lines around it, which is super annoying in my opinion. So I really hope Procreate ends up with something like that, because the color drop tool in Procreate is not it. So after I'm done with that, I like to add little hair strands around the like line art of the hair to make it look like more dynamic. So when it comes to coloring the hair, I honestly don't know like how I do the shadows and stuff. Like I see some artists who have super beautiful like hair coloring techniques, and I really need to improve in this aspect of my art. But what I do is I like to choose a lighter color for the very top of the hair to make it like a gradient effect. And then for this specific character, she has like blue tips, so I kind of airbrushed blue color on the tips of her hair. So when it comes to the shadows, I try to base it off of where the light source is. And like I said earlier, this piece doesn't really have a definite light source, so I kind of struggled when I was drawing the shadows. But I tried to focus on the areas where like other strands of hair are covering the back of her hair, like her bangs and like stuff like that. So when it comes to the highlights, I like to keep it pretty messy and keep it in like a triangular shape on the top of the shadows, because I think it looks really good. Then I like to choose a super bright version of the color I used for lighting, and then I add it like on the very top of the hair, and again, triangular shapes. Now onto her clothing. It's kind of the same thing as her skin and her hair. I choose a base color, make a clipping mask for the shadows, and yeah. For the shadows in her clothing, I choose a darker version of the base color and brush it where the shadows would be. So her chest area kind of reflects on her stomach, so I draw a little triangular like block and then brush it out with the smudge tool. And I think that's basically what I do to shade my clothing. I also like to layer on more shadow based on how close it is to the light source. By the way guys, for this entire drawing I only used 2 brushes, and I'll link both of them in the pinned comment, so you guys can check those out too. They're all free by the way, so don't worry about that. So I kind of like, when it comes to like shading my details, it's different for every drawing because obviously every drawing has different details on it. But for this one, like the little X's on her shirt, I wanted to add depth by choosing a darker pink and then shading the edges because I thought it looked really cute. So for the other details like the IV drip and stuff, I basically chose the color of the liquid, and on top of it I put like a gray color that I used for her shirt, and kind of lowered the opacity of it so it made it look like it was clear. And when it comes to like shading clear things, I am not good at it. Like I had no idea what I was doing when I was shading this thing. I just added like a lot of white highlights and honestly kind of random places. And I kind of did that till it looked good. So for the needle, I kind of did the same thing as the IV drip, except needles were a little bit easier for me to shade because it's technically a cylinder. So there's usually going to be like one highlight going down the middle. So that's kind of what I did, and I think it turned out pretty okay. Also guys, use reference pictures. That's the thing that saved me, especially with the IV drip, because I had no idea what I was doing. But use reference pictures. For finishing touches, I kind of added more highlights on her hair and body. Now onto my favorite part, the background. I based the background off of this picture I saw by Rainins because I thought it looked really edgy and cool. So what I did is color drop black and kind of make the arch that you see in this picture. And I basically color dropped purple right under that, and then I kind of blurred the border between the two with a dark purple, and then in between the dark purple I used an orange. So when I'm blurring it, by the way, I use Gaussian blur. After that, I kind of added a shadow to her body, and here's a tip. If you wanted to have like a little rainbow effect in the ends, do like a gray shadow around like your character or whatever, and then go to chromatic aberration, turn it up pretty high until you start seeing the rainbow marks, and then use Gaussian blur, and you get like this really beautiful rainbow effect on the edges. After that, I kind of finished up the drawing by outlining her body with a white to make it kind of pop out from the dark background. Alright guys, I think I finally figured out what's wrong with the line art when I'm completely done with the drawing. I feel like her head was a little bit too big in the back and it's kind of a weird angle. So I kind of used the liquify tool to make it a little bit better, but I'm still not sure. It still seems like there's something off. Alright guys, here's the finished drawing. I really hope you enjoyed this rendering tutorial. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to write them in the comments. I love reading your guys' comments. And if you like this video, make sure to click the like button, and if you want to, subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.